Today's webinar is Escape Email Hell, Managing Email Across Your Entire Law Firm. I am Andrew Cabasso from Uptime Legal, sitting in today for Ira Glass, who is in San Diego, sitting in for Andrew Cabasso. Today's webinar, we have the privilege of joining us Dennis Dimka, the CEO of Uptime Legal, and today he's going to talk with us about better managing email across your entire law firm, strategies to better do that, software and tools, and you know what, let's just jump right in. Dennis, thank you for joining us today. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you for that introduction, Andrew, and thank all of you for joining us today on how to escape email hell, managing email across your entire law firm. We found that if the word hell is in the name of the webinar, more people will come.
It's true. Statistically speaking, our data scientists have found that the word hell resonates very strongly. Also, if you have any questions at all during this webinar, please feel free to ask them in the sidebar on your GoToWebinar screen, and we'll make sure to get to them.
Absolutely. So quick introduction, a little bit about me. As Andrew introduced, I'm Dennis Dimka, the CEO of Uptime Legal Systems. My personal background is in technology and IT. And today, I spend my days advising law firms on a variety of subjects, ranging from legal technology to legal software to document and email management and generally law firm productivity. So on our agenda for today, start with an introduction, and then I'll talk a little bit about, before I get into the what and the how, I always like to start with why. Why does your law firm need email management? And by that I mean, why does your law firm need an email management plan or process? Then I'll shift into the right and wrong way to manage email in a law firm. I'll talk about the power of an email management system. And then, should that drive you to look for an email management system, I'll share with you some elements to look for in email management software. I'll wrap it up with some further reading that I'll recommend, and as Andrew mentioned, we'll end with Q&A. And I'll just second what Andrew said. Please do enter your questions. The Q&A will be at the end, but that doesn't mean you can't type in or ask questions along the way, especially if something piques your interest or makes you think of a question. Please enter it on the fly as you're thinking of it, and we'll get through as many of them as we can at the end. And before we dive in, I thought I'd start with a poll question because I'm curious. The question is, what prompted you to attend today's webinar? You could select all that apply. Options include my inbox is out of control, or my firm lacks an overarching way to manage email. By overarching, I mean sort of firm-wide. Or C, I just thought I'd learn something new.
All right, so the poll is now open. This is an interactive webinar, so please, if you look on your screens, you should see a poll question that you can answer. Kind of what prompted you to attend today's webinar, and if any of these three don't really resonate with you, pick whichever one is kind of closest.
It's interesting too. Some the law firms I talk to, some of them struggle with email just sort of on that individual level, meaning their own inbox is out of control. Others feel like maybe their email management practices are good, but across the firm it's poor or inconsistent. So it'll be interesting to see what the results are.
All right, and with that, we got most people have submitted. Let's close it out. And the answer, it's fairly close, but 38% are here because they want to learn something new, 32% because their firm lacks an overarching way to manage email, and 30% has their inbox out of control. I definitely empathize with having an out of control inbox. All right, so let's keep going.
Let's do it. All right. So today we're gonna talk about email management for law firms. And the reason is that so many law firms that I talk to struggle with staying on top of their email. And that's largely how we kind of think of subjects to talk about in our webinars is, we talk to a lot of law firms all the time. What are they struggling with? What are they thinking about? What are they wondering? And email management is definitely one of them, both from that individual perspective, as I mentioned, meaning my inbox is out of control, as well as that firm-wide perspective. Now, most businesses generally, and I mean all businesses and organizations, you could argue don't necessarily need anything more than standard software tools to manage their email. For a lot of businesses, a basic email client is good enough for most types of organizations. But law firms, I think, are special. Typically, law firms need more than just simply the ability to send, receive, and organize their email. Now, it goes without saying, but I'll say it. Email is vital to a law firm. Not just having email, but having a system to process, organize, and really action on all of your email. And think about how much email plays a part in managing one particular case or managing your entire law firm. Clients send and sign documents by email. Contracts are often negotiated by email. Motions are sent or received by email, and on and on. I mean, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. So what we've seen is that every law firm, large or small, needs a system to store and to share and manage and organize their email. They need a process to manage all of the email that accumulates within their firm for every employee every day. And that's exactly what we're going to cover in today's webinar. So let's get started. So to get started, I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why your law firm needs email management. And when I say that, I'm not talking about software, at least just yet. I mean, a software solution is ultimately how we'll solve some of these problems, but really I just mean a plan, a policy, a system for managing email across your entire firm. And the best way to do that, these 5 reasons why, are really going to be 5 sort of fundamental challenges with email in a law firm. So to effectively manage email, your firm will need some kind of system. Now that could be dedicated software to manage email, or it could be a function of other software that you either have or will have or aspire to get, such as practice management software or document management software. But I think a key lesson, at least at this high level, is ultimately having a system that you use and that your firm uses is more important than which software you choose ultimately to do it. But you will need some system. So to articulate why, I'll walk you through those 5 common or really inherent problems of managing email in a law firm. So fundamental problem number 1, or fundamental challenge number 1. Email, by default, lives in its own closed system, meaning it lives in your, let's just say you use Outlook, it lives in your Outlook inbox. Other matter information, such as documents, case notes, etc., live elsewhere in other systems. And all of your documents, your notes, and your email related to one matter is, by default, again, segregated, meaning you won't be able to see it all in one place. You won't be able to access it or manage it or even see what's there from one place, which leads to inefficiency, wasted time, certainly leads to a potential for mistakes. And big picture, it leads to a lack of a global view for an entire matter. What are all the documents, the email, the other things that we have on this matter? So fundamental problem 1 is matter information segregation. Another problem really inherent to email for law firms is lack of centralization. So when you're working on a case, you might be one of 3 people in your firm working on it. And each of you, say 3 of you, may be sending and receiving email related to that case. So suppose you individually are very diligent about saving every single email to a particular folder in Outlook. So if you're working the Smith matter, maybe you're very diligent, you're very organized, and you always copy or drag and drop a matter-related email to that folder you've created. Well, that's great for you, but it doesn't help the other people in your firm working on this matter. They might need to see an email chain, or they might need to know what you said in a recent reply. Email on its own, with basic email tools, is fundamentally decentralized. Number 3, organization. Another, again, fundamental problem with standard email tools like Outlook or Gmail is that they really leave you and your entire firm to your own devices. when it comes to managing email. And in this case, by managing, I mean developing a system to keep your email organized, sticking to that system, using it every time, and ensuring that that system is used and followed across your whole firm. And yes, Outlook and Gmail give you some basic tools, right? They give you folders, rules, tags, but it's still on you to put those tools to use, to develop a system or a process to use them and to organize email. And it's on you to stick to that plan and system, to use it every time, and to make sure that, again, everyone else in your firm follows those same rules, uses that same system consistently. So you're really just left to your own devices. Fundamental email challenge in a law firm number 4 is search. So searching email with standard email software is by and large pretty hit or miss. In fairness, Gmail has got search down pretty well, being Google, of course, but it's still in most cases only limited to your inbox. So you can do a search against your inbox. It's pretty effective, but it's just your inbox. Outlook, on the other side, has that same problem and honestly has some others. The Outlook indexer, which is what is used to index all of the email you send and receive to give you search result. It's prone to breaking, which can make searching slow. Sometimes it simply breaks search altogether, so you can't do a search. We especially see that with Outlook in large mailboxes. The index breaks, search stops working for one person or for multiple people. And what's more, because indexing for Outlook is done individually on each computer, you might set it up, you might be able to search really well on one computer, say maybe your main desktop or office computer, but it doesn't work well, or it's not set up, index that is, on Outlook on your laptop or on a new computer when you get one. And if it sounds like I'm picking on Outlook here, I don't mean to. I'm a huge Outlook fan. I'm an avid Outlook user. I use it, I customize it, I use all the power tools, or many of them I should say. So it's a great product, it's a great tool. It's just that standard email clients like Outlook and Gmail and others just aren't well suited to search the way a law firm needs, among other things. And finally, OCR. Another important function that basic email software really, again, leaves you to your own devices on is OCR. And if you're not familiar, OCR is the technology that converts scanned documents to text-enabled files, which allows you to copy and paste from them, and it more importantly means that those files will be indexed again so they can be searched. So to describe what I mean, if you've ever been emailed, received an email from someone with an attached PDF document and opened it, and you've noticed that you can't select any of the text, you can't copy or paste any of the text, you know what I mean. And the file, the PDF, might look more like a photograph of a document than really a text document. And that's because it is. It's effectively, before it's been OCR, that is, it's a photograph of a document, in effect. So when you see that, that means that the document has not been OCR'd before it was sent to you. And again, when a document isn't OCR'd, it can't be easily edited by software like Adobe Acrobat. And it certainly won't be found in a search because, again, it's a photograph, not text. So using only standard email tools, OCR won't happen unless you do it manually. And not having an email management system will ultimately leave you with many un-OCR documents, which will never show up in a search, or will leave you to have to manually OCR every PDF you're ever sent by email every time. And good luck making sure everyone in your firm does that every time. So those aren't the only fundamental challenges, but I think as I talk to firms and get a sense of where the struggles are, those are probably the top 5 fundamental challenges with managing an email in a law firm, and they only become more acute as the law firm grows. So now that we've explored those problems, and we've talked about why basic email software alone isn't good enough to manage email for your entire firm, we'll talk about what are some potential solutions. Naturally, having these problems prompts many law firms to go set out to find some solution for dealing with these issues. So next, I'll cover the right and the wrong way to go about solving these problems, because there is definitely a right and a wrong way. So the wrong way. The wrong way to manage and organize matter-related email in your law firm is probably the default way for most or any law firm. and that is having each person in your firm, quote unquote, manage email in their Outlook. That is, you get a new client or start a new case, and naturally you start to send and receive emails maybe from that client or just generally relating to that matter. So naturally, what do? You create an Outlook folder in your Outlook or maybe in your Gmail for that client or case. And maybe your law partner is also working on that matter, so she creates a similar folder in her Outlook. And maybe your paralegal is also doing work for that matter, so he creates a folder in his Outlook. And the problem, as you're no doubt getting, is that all of the emails for this case are now decentralized. They're spread across 3 or more people's email software. Nobody in this team of 3, we'll say, can see the emails that the others have sent or received or saved for that matter. And what's more is now your email is very much duplicative. It's been duplicated across multiple inboxes. And again, making matters worse, all of the relevant email for this matter is in a different system, that system being Outlook in my example, is in a different system from the other things that are important for this matter, documents, notes, and so on. So now your already decentralized email is not in the same place as other important information. It's disjointed, it's messy, and it's a surefire way to frustrate people, to make mistakes, and overlook things. Which brings me to my next poll question. And the question is, does your firm manage, and again I put that in quotes, does your firm manage email in this fashion with just folders in your Outlook or email client? Options, of course, are yes or no. Andrew, the poll is open, I take it?
Yep, the poll is now open. Answers are coming in from everybody. Make sure you vote. It's important to vote.
I'll add too that if your answer is yes, please don't feel bad or sheepish. That's the case for many, many law firms, which is exactly why we're having this webinar, is to talk about, there's a better way.
All right. Most people have voted. We're closing down. Oops. And the winner is, yep, just about 2/3 are managing their email with an Outlook folder for each client or matter.
Very, very common. And especially if you're a solo firm, that's probably just fine. If you're a 2-3 person firm, it gets tricky. Beyond that, it gets even worse, as I said. So very, very common. So we talked about the wrong way to manage email in a law firm. What is the right way? What's the correct way to manage email as a law firm? And the short answer in a sentence or less is with a single centralized system. Single and centralized. One platform that everyone in your firm can and does save every matter-related email to. A system that is centrally stored so that everyone in your firm who needs to can store, share, and review emails for any particular matter. And as I described earlier, or touched on briefly, this could fall into any number of categories of software. Again, the system in the process is truly more important than the particular piece of software you use or the particular category of software you use. But to be specific, that could be standalone email management software. There is software out there that simply does that. That could be, again, your practice management software. Most legal practice management apps have some level of email management, or it could be document management software. And generally speaking, document management software tends to be the best tool to manage email for a few reasons. Because an email is essentially a type of document, and document management systems, or DMSs, usually come with more tools to manage email than the other categories of software. And that is absolutely a generalization, and that is absolutely not a hard and fast rule. But it is generally the case. And I'll elaborate a little bit on that later. In other words, on the subject of a document management system being generally a better fit for managing email than practice management or other types of software. So next I'll talk about the power of an email management system, whatever you ultimately choose to use. So as I've said, the solution to these fundamental email challenges is to implement an email management system. Again, either standalone software or software that's part of a larger suite. And a system that will allow you to store, organize, and manage email and do it across your entire firm and do it in a matter-centric way. So to this point, I've been pretty general. Let's talk specifics. What will an email management system do for your firm? I'll use our own software, Uptime LegalWorks, as an example. LegalWorks is our own cloud-based, matter-centric document and email management system for law firms. Quick disclaimer, yes, I do think that our document and email management system is great, but honestly, I'd rather see you guys use any email management system than no email management system. So, the first thing a document and email management system will do for your firm is keep matter-related information in one place. So think about what you're doing when you're working on any given case of any type of law, any practice area. To some degree, you're probably working with documents, taking notes, reading email, sending email. And when you do that, it's important to have quick access to all of those things for that matter. So when you open, for instance, the Smith matter, an existing case you've maybe been working on for some time, you want to see all relevant documents and email and notes for that case. Preferably not only in the same system, but preferably in the same screen or very, very close. And a document and email management system does exactly that. And you can see by way of example here. So number two, reason for having an email management system / the power of an email management system is centralized and shared. An email management system will be those two things, as opposed to, again, the very decentralized nature of everyone storing email in their own Outlook inboxes. All email that your firm saves to the system when you have one will be stored in a single central database and is stored by matter and is accessible to your entire firm and is deduplicated. So again, if 5 people in your firm are copied on the same email, maybe from a client or something like that, and all 5 of you, because you're very diligent and you all save your email to your email management system, do that, only 1 copy will actually be saved, which cuts down on clutter, duplication visibly, cuts down on storage and the costs associated with that. And all email for all matters for all employees or across all employees will become searchable. In other words, you can search the Smith matter and see all emails sent or received by anyone in your firm, because you may not necessarily know or have been CC'd on a particular email that your law partner sent or that your paralegal received and saved into the system. Number 3, organized. With an email management system, and I think this is a kind of a key tenet, the system does the organizing as opposed to the person. Because frankly, systems are better at that than people are, and they're more consistent with it. So with a good email management system, there's typically no need to manually create a folder, such as in your Outlook, for a new matter. In many document and email management applications, when you create a new matter, you can automatically start saving email to that matter right away. And you can see that in this example here. So for instance, in LegalWorks, our document and email management system, a list of your current matters appears right in Outlook, where you can easily drag and drop them into a matter to save or file them to that matter. Then when you or someone in your firm needs to find an email from maybe that they saved to the matter, maybe that somebody else in the firm did, they simply open that matter and review the emails saved to that matter in the system. And again, I'm using ours as an example because I know it well, but many other ones do this, and this should be something you would expect to see in a good document and email management system. Another sort of must-have, I would think, in an email management system is once you've saved emails into the system, users, members of your firm, can filter and sort and search by any of the email fields like sender, recipient, body, subject, attachment, date, so on and so forth. Number 4, search that works. So in a good email management system, the software will index every email that you save to it. Both emails that have, again, been sent to you and emails that you have sent and saved or filed in that matter. And what that means is that the software will crawl every email and all of it, ranging from the subject of the email, again, the to, the from, the body, all attachments, so that you can search across all emails in a matter or across your entire system. And that does include attachments and the content within attachments. So what that means, if you're not familiar, if the terms like index or crawling are something that are new to you, it's the example I'll always use is Google. So just like Google crawls and indexes the internet, an email management system will index all of your email and all of your documents as well, giving you a sort of Google-like search for all of your email across your entire firm. And that's something that law firms struggle with a lot, is having good search across all of their email. And number 5, integrated OCR. So as I touched on earlier, it's incredibly useful to have your email management system automatically OCR your documents, specifically documents attached to an email. And as I said, even if your firm is really diligent about OCRing scanned documents that you guys scan in your firm, or maybe you've even set up your scanner to do that automatically, so it's sort of set it and forget it, that doesn't help with documents that are emailed to you, meaning somebody else scans them and email them to you and they didn't OCR it necessarily. So to illustrate in a little bit more detail what I mean, you can see my examples here. The document on the left could be a scanned document that somebody else, maybe a client, scanned and sent to you by email. And what you can see in this left document, that's pre-OCR, is that, again, it's a photograph, essentially. If I try to click any of that text or drag and drop to select it, I can't. I essentially just have this selection square, which means it's more like an image or a picture, which again means not just that I can't copy and paste text, but also that it'll never be indexed and will never show up in a search. And the document example, the same document that you see on the right, is that same document after it's been OCR'd or post-OCR. And that means that it's converted the image to text. I can click and drag and drop and select and copy and paste the text. And again, more importantly, now that it's text, it will be indexed and it will show up in a search. So, which brings me to my next poll question. Does your firm have an automatic integrated solution for OCR? The options are yes, no, or what's OCR again?
And the poll is now open. Your options are yes, no, or what's OCR? The question is, does your firm have an automatic integrated OCR system? And answers are coming in. Please vote if you have not yet, and then we're going to close down this poll real soon.
I think I read a study once and it was sort of anecdotal, but something to the effect of 30 to 40% of all documents that are stored electronically in a law firm are PDFs that have not been OCR'd. So in the event that you ever need to search and find something in that 30 or 40%, you never will. So OCR is something that is very important to a law firm.
And the poll is now closed. The answer overwhelmingly is no. 65%, 30% say yes, and 5% what's OCR?
Interesting. Yeah, OCR is something that, whether you choose to implement a document management solution or an email management solution or both, that should be something on your radar if retrieving and searching documents in email is something that's even a little important to your firm. So far, we've covered some of the fundamental challenges within managing email across an entire law firm. We've covered the right way, the wrong way to try to solve those problems. And we've explored why, for most law firms, some level of email management software is usually the path to the promised land, which might prompt many of you to think about or seek out email management software, in which case, good for you. So if that's the next step in your journey, what I'll do next is cover some important elements to look for when evaluating document and email management systems. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but some kind of the top, I don't know how many, 5 or 6 or 7 things that you should look for that I would consider a requirement when looking at document or email management software. So number 1, centralized. I know I've said that word many times now, it's worth repeating. Your law firm email management system should be a central system, one that everyone in your firm can access, and one that avoids email duplication. 2, multi-purpose. There is, again, software out there that does nothing but manage email in a central database, and that would probably be better than nothing, but I generally recommend, rather than doing standalone email management software, that you leverage some other software that manages other elements of your law firm. So again, that's either going to be a document management software or practice management software for a few reasons. Number 1, more systems, more software, more things to manage and install and set up and think about is usually not a good thing. And 2, as I touched on earlier, it's really useful to keep all matter-related content being documents, email, notes, and other information, in a single system. So another important element in our view when you're searching for a document and email management system is something cloud-based. For most law firms, life is simply better in the cloud. And whatever your firm ultimately looks at or implements to manage email, I highly recommend you get something that is cloud-based, because compared to a premise-based system, a cloud-based solution means no software to install on your desktops or on your servers, no servers to manage. Cloud systems tend to be more reliable. They're as reliable as the provider as opposed to as reliable as your server, which may range from very reliable to not reliable at all. Cloud-based systems are, of course, by nature more accessible and more mobile. They tend to be more secure, again, as opposed to a server sitting in a law firm's copy room or coat closet. They tend to be more scalable, and I'm mostly referring to storage there. If you need to add a terabyte or if you need to add a couple hundred gigs, you usually can with minimal cost, which relates to them being more economical. If you look at, and I won't name any names, but if you look at some of the premise-based systems out there, especially document management systems, they're not inexpensive. They're not inexpensive. So generally speaking, look to the cloud for managing your email. Outlook integration. Assuming your law firm uses Outlook, which most do, your document and email management system should integrate directly with Outlook, because Outlook is, after all, the most used email client for businesses, including law firms. So having that direct integration that looks and works something like you see in my example here is important. Something where you can very quickly and easily file an email to a matter is key. And the reason that I really emphasize that point is because having a system where you can do your email management within Outlook, but still the data is stored in your separate database, removes friction from implementing it in the first place and using it on an ongoing basis. And that's important with adoption. When you're implementing anything new in your law firm, whether it just simply be a new policy or process or a new system or a new piece of software, you want as little friction as possible to increase the odds that everyone will use it and be excited about using it and follow the process and the procedure every time. And chances are your team is already used to dragging and dropping emails to a folder in Outlook when they think about filing emails to a matter. So by having this kind of Outlook integration, that drag and drop will be very natural and very familiar. So now for a quick sidebar on something that I had promised earlier. Should you do email management in practice management software or document management software? There's no absolute right or wrong answer, but I've sort of already alluded to at least my lean and what we think tends to be a better tool for that job. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use practice management software to manage email. But for most law firms, generally speaking, document management software is often better suited. And I'll take a moment to explain why that is. So a lot of the email management capabilities that I've seen in a lot of the different practice management apps out there, and I've looked at a lot from web-based or cloud-based ones to server-based or premise-based ones. They tend to be they tend to come up a little short and be clunky in a few different ways. I've seen some applications, and I won't name names because they're otherwise great products and I don't want to pick on anybody, but some of them require you to set up forwarders in your Outlook, so that if you want to save an email to a matter, you have to do it through that forwarder. And I've seen other systems where the only way to get an email into a matter is every matter in the software is assigned this sort of long cryptic email address. You know, lots of numbers and letters at something.com, and then you have to either forward emails to that address to get it in there, or you have to CC that address to get that particular email copied into that matter. And I've even seen ones where they sort of require you to set up essentially a contact in your Outlook for every matter that you might want to save to. So it's just kind of clunky, and certainly there's a lot of friction again. And another flaw, or I guess shortcoming I've seen in the way practice management software tends to manage email in a law firm is sometimes they'll just copy the content of an email to the case rather than the full original email in its entirety. Meaning they'll sort of do a scrape of the text from the subject and the from and the to and the body, and maybe attachments as well, but it's still not the original email. And by comparison, generally speaking, document and email management software will do better kind of on all those fronts. Number one, they'll again integrate directly with Outlook. So no need to set up forwarders, no need to CC weird cryptic email addresses. They'll also, again, generally speaking, copy the entire email in its full native format, including attachments. And for a lot of law firms that we talk to, having that full original email is important, depending on the type of email it is. And I don't mean to pick on practice management software here. Again, generally, they're great at managing clients. They're great at doing what they're meant to do for the most part. Clients, managing contacts, dealing with calendars, tracking time, sending bills, things like that. But often managing email and to a lesser degree documents is maybe not an afterthought per se, but certainly not core to what their core functionality is really about. It's just not what they're designed to do. So for all those reasons, as a rule, we recommend that law firms implement document and email management systems to manage email. Which brings me to my final poll question. If any of this has caught your interest or you want to learn more, the poll question is simple. Would you like someone from Uptime Legal to contact you about document and email management solutions? Yes or no?
All right, and the poll is now open, and we'll close the poll shortly. If you haven't yet, please vote, and then we'll move on to the next section. All right, just give it a few more seconds. All right. Well, thanks for the responses, and on the next.
All right. So as promised, I'll share some further reading with you guys. I hope this has at the very least got you thinking about email management and thinking about managing email beyond even just your own inbox, but for your entire firm in more of a firm-centric or matter-centric way. So if you do want to learn more, apart from contacting us directly, we've got some additional really great resources on our website that I've kind of handpicked for you guys. The first of which is our guide on this very subject, The Ultimate Guide to Law Firm Email Management. It's a great guide. I'm probably biased, but I think it's amazing. And it's got lots of information, including some of the stuff we covered today, and a lot more in a lot more detail, including how to go about implementing an email management system. Definitely recommended. If your search brings you to the level of looking at different specific document and email management software applications, I would recommend checking out our chart, our document management software comparison chart, which, as the name implies, takes kind of the leading 4 or so document management software solutions out there and compares them side by side, kind of feature by feature, side by side, where each one is strong, where each one is maybe a little light, and hopefully that helps you narrow down your search. And finally, loosely related, if your firm aspires to go more paperless, I definitely recommend checking out our paperless law firm checklist, which will help you go through and really understand all the steps involved in going paperless. So all of those and more are available at our Legal Technology Library, which is a growing and really big repository of all kinds of great resources and materials that are free for download for everyone on topics ranging from document management, going paperless, email management, legal technology in general, internet marketing for law firms, and a whole lot more. So please check that out. It's available at uptimelegal.com/library. And we'll get into Q&A next. We'll try to get to everyone's questions. If we don't get to yours, or if you think of a new one later, please feel free to contact me directly. I'm at dennis.dimka@uptimelegal.com.
All right. And now let's do some Q&A. One person asks, is there a system that allows you to add sub-messages to various people who are copied? For example, I send an email to Jane Doe, but I copy attorney John Smith. The email to Jane is about her performance. I would like to be able to submit a note viewable by only John as to the origin to get him up to speed without having to send several messages. So that's talking about, I guess, a feature.
It's a good question. If I understand the question completely, I think the question is along the lines of, is there a system out there that allows you to add sort of internal comments or notes to an email? The short answer is, I don't know. LegalWorks, our own product, does not do that. And some of the other products out there that I'm familiar with, I don't know. With the right kind of system, you could create notes and sort of associate them to an email. I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, or if that would be a little bit of a retrofit, but you could theoretically do that, or implement some system of your own within the software that effectively does that.
All right, we got a lot of other great questions here. I think this one's my favorite. When is the cat psychology webinar? I mentioned at the top of the webinar, the cat psychology webinar is going to be next week. Just a quick preview of that webinar. The answer is basically, the theme of the webinar is basically good luck, the cat will do whatever it wants for no discernible reason. Next question. Is there any type of software that I can use to help me kind of clean out my inbox, because I have over 6,000 messages?
Yeah, that's a good question. Outlook has in it some built-in tools for inbox cleanup. I don't know if I would advise letting anything automated do it for you, because who knows what you're going to need. I would recommend one of a couple of things. If you use the Outlook cleanup tool, it sort of allows you to define some parameters, like automatically delete or archive anything over X days old, or from this sender or from that. Before you do anything like that, though, what I would highly recommend is to make a complete backup of your email to, say, a PST file, for instance. So you know that no matter what you do, because if you're going to go at it with a hatchet, you've at least got a copy in case you cut a little too deep, so to speak. And that said, knowing that you have that backup, you can kind of have the freedom to just go a little bit scorched earth with your email, meaning start from scratch, start from something blank. If you're going to go automated, that's the way I would do it.
All right. Let's see. Another question is, I guess if you're talking about a document management system, does kind of the email residing in the system generally have like a preview of the email without having to open it or get into an item specifically?
Depends on the system, but generally yes. And especially since there's a few ways you might be getting at that email in your email management system. You might be clicking into a matter file, going to an email section and finding it that way. Or you might be doing a search right across your entire document and email management system, and then the search pulls up, among other things, an email with that in it, and you can see often a thumbnail or a preview there. So again, short answer, depends on the system, and it also depends on how you're approaching it. I sort of hate when the answer is it depends, because that's always the answer, but I hope that helps. I hope that clarifies a bit.
All right. Another question is, do document management systems auto-detect the folder for emails to go to if it's related to like a specific matter or client, or suggest a specific folder, or do you have to kind of manually assign every single email and item to different matter folders?
Very good question. So the answer is it depends again, but it depends on the system, on the specific software you use. Some are manual only. Others give you the option to do what some people call predictive email management or smart filing, or pick your favorite term here. But basically what it does is, if I'm your client and I'm Dennis and I send you an email and you drag it to the Dennis matter, the system might prompt you, would you like to automatically file all future emails from Dennis to the Dennis matter? Question mark. And if you say yes, it will do exactly that. And what can be useful about that, apart from saving you time, is that those rules can apply not just to you, but to your whole firm again. So the idea is, typically over time you build up those rules, you build up those associations, and your email management system gets smarter and smarter and saves you more and more time.
All right. One person, says that the only email integration system they've used was Windows DM, and in it, the emails would be saved to a specific file, yet you'd often get duplicated chains, especially when there was more than one person responding on disparate chains. Are there any systems that you're aware of that can kind of merge chains into something kind of less intimidating?
A good email management system will maybe not necessarily merge change in a literal sense, but will organize them either by subject, which in effect organizes them by chain in a way that makes them easy to spot what you're looking for. I'm not familiar with Windows DM personally, but what I have seen is a lot of law firms use like the G drive or the S drive for their quote unquote document management system. And then in order to sort of make a homegrown email management system, their process is to literally drag and drop emails from their Outlook to their G drive, which creates a whole lot of mess, and it's ugly and it's hard to find what you're looking for, and then if there's, to your point, if there's 12 emails in a chain, there's going to be 12 files sitting in that folder, which kind of comes back to why one needs a document and email management system in the first place.
Is there a maximum size email that software like LegalWorks or others can handle generally?
It depends on the system, and there's always going to be some sort of limit. So I guess this isn't the most helpful answer you'll hear all day, but it really depends on the system, and you should ask them, what that limit is.
Specifically, how about LegalWorks?
So LegalWorks, I am not sure. I want to say it's 10 gigs, but don't quote me on that. And if whoever's asking that question is thinking about LegalWorks or would like to learn more, please do feel free to email me. Again, I'm at dennis.dimka@uptimelegal.com, and I'm happy to get the absolute certain answer on that because I don't want to misquote it.
All right. In document management software, how are email attachments filed?
So it depends on the system. I hope sorry to be repetitive, but in the case of LegalWorks, for instance, it saves the email message in its entirety in its native format, and specifically, and I'm going to get just a little bit techie, it saves it as a .msg file, and the .msg file is a complete copy of the email with the attachment. So the attachment actually lives in the file. So if it's a .doc attachment, for instance, it's a .doc that lives in a .msg, all of which is indexed by the index engine, so it can be searched, and all of which is OCR'd if it's a OCRable document.
All right. A specific question that someone has is if you're moving email in legal works in like a matter folder, is there a way to not use the mouse to move them? Some people are mouse crazy, moving them to a wrong folder.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think that problem exists beyond just email, right? I mean, how many times have you seen something where somebody double clicked or tried to, but they double clicked a little too slow and it kind of interpreted it as a drag and drop. And there goes your file into a different folder and you don't remember where it went. Happens a lot. So good software, and that's why, as a rule, using again your G drive or just a basic file system in Windows isn't a good way to manage documents or email. So the software, if it's good software, and I think most software probably falls into this category, doesn't let you drag and drop quite so easily. It has to be more of a deliberate action. That could be right-click move, that might be some other operation or button, depends on the software, but those kinds of misfiles and misclicks should happen never or very rarely.
All right. Do document management systems allow you to export your documents in like an organized form to other systems where it's not driven by the same software?
They sure should, in our opinion. Some do, some don't. Using our own legal works as an example, yes, if a firm is with us, all their documents and emails are in our system, and they need to move to something else for some reason, right? Maybe they've been acquired, maybe they're retiring. Yes, in our view, that data should be able to be provided back outside of the document management system in a way that's understandable, like a folder per matter or a folder per client with all the subfolders intact, or something that you can read through it and look through it and understand what you're looking at.
All right. In DMS software, can you make emails marked as confidential?
Um, it's a good question. So depends on the software again, but in the case of certain document email management software, you can create tags and you can tag documents or email. So a good example of a tag might be confidential or urgent or under review or anything you can define. And then you can tag documents or email with a particular tag or label. Now, if what you're talking about is a little bit more around security or permissions, meaning you just simply want to prohibit the ability of somebody else to see that, that too is part of the software. In the case of LegalWorks, you absolutely can, and I think probably most other software you can too.
All right, and I think what's going to be the last questions for today are there copies of the handouts or is there going to be a copy of the video? So this webinar is recorded, and in about 24 hours, we're going to email out the saved link to the recorded video. We also have some handouts and documents to recommend checking out from the Uptime Legal Library, and we're going to share links with those as well. So be on the lookout in your inboxes about 24 hours from now, and we'll be sending those materials over. Thank you for all the really great questions. And Dennis, thank you so much for talking with us today about email management for law firms.
Absolutely, and thank you all again for coming.
All right, everyone, have a great day, and we look forward to you joining us next week for our webinar on cat psychology. Have a great day.